You are listening to the ERP Organizational Change Journal, a podcast brought to you by Nestell and Associates.
Hey, Brett, another area I wanted to pick your brain on is this idea about training and learning and development, or L&D, in the organization. And we've had several L&D professionals on the podcast, and we have more lined up. And that's very deliberate because I believe that's an area in general in our practice that needs some work. But to what extent do you suggest and encourage opportunities for training and learning during the ERP implementation? And that goes for, before the implementation or during the implementation and post-implementation. What's your thoughts on that idea of learning and development, organizational learning throughout the whole process?
That's a great question, Jack. And I say all three. The faster we can train, the better, before, during, and after. Let me give you an example. So Oracle, which is, the ERP that I implement today, Oracle provides free training courses at Oracle University on their applications. Is it generic? Yes. Is it comprehensive? No. But it's enough to start the journey, to get the customers thinking about their world in Oracle. Keep in mind that whenever a consultant and a business user gets together, typically the customer is going to be speaking business speak, their language that they've known probably for the last 5 to 10 years. Typically, the Oracle consultant is going to be speaking Oracle.
Yeah.
And there needs a translation that needs to happen. It's a natural occurrence that needs to happen, that they need to get on the same page and making sure that they're speaking the same language. Anything I can do to accelerate that process, I want to do that. So taking that free learning is important. I recommend that to all of my customers. Also, I set the appropriate expectations of, hey, this is not the last time you're going to have to take training.
Yeah.
Number 2 is the customer needs to train the SI partner on their business process. So just like the customer needs to get a little bit more into the Oracle world, same thing for the SI partners and the consultants. So that kind of training needs to happen. Again, it's getting them on the same page as quickly as possible. Hands-on training, in other words, testing, is the best form of training. Involve end users sooner rather than later. I don't believe in just-in-time training. It's plain wrong for ERP. In general, a person needs to hear or see something 3 times before an understanding is created. And when they have that understanding, it's internalized, then they're truly enabled.
Yeah. Brett, that's a great point. And I think this idea of learning as bi-directional is so true, right? It's not just that the organization needs to be trained on the new features and functions of the platform, but even before that point and throughout, the SMEs, the subject matter experts, also, it's a learning experience for them as well. So I think that, everybody's ERP implementation plan needs to be careful to consider that idea. We've actually been in sessions before where I've been asked by internal team members, why are we going through this? Because we already understand this. We already understand these processes. And then the answer is really, well, it's not just about you. It's about the team that's going to help us get to where we need to be. They need some time as well for some learning.
Spot on, Jack. Spot on.
And Brett, I liked your idea of the just-in-time training. And I will tell you, I have recently reviewed some project plans from vendors, and their plan was to start training 4 to 5 weeks out from the implementation. Number one, I think the L&D, the learning and development built into this project plan, was poor. But I think just to illustrate the points you just made, I think that's putting the organization behind the 8 ball to think that they can go through and adequately train for an implementation in such a short time frame. And so I think it needs to start very early and very often throughout the entire cycle.
And I know during the sales cycle, you'll hear the term, well, it's intuitive. This is an enterprise resource planning solution. It's not intuitive. Yeah. I'm sorry. You're paying millions of dollars, right?
And Brett, I've mentioned, I think it was pre our discussion today when we were talking earlier before the recording. And I'd mentioned, I think, and I've said this on other podcasts as well, I think sometimes during the sales cycle, you can take one logo off of one ERP vendor and put it on the same deck, and they talk about a lot of the same things. And I'm being a little bit facetious when I say that, just having fun with it. But, the point you made about, well, hey, it's intuitive. Our GUI is intuitive. man, if an organization hears that, that's an alarm, right? Because maybe it's somewhat intuitive and the guided user interface is nice and it flows well, but that's really different from training. That's a bit different from really understanding the product and how it works and how it models your business. So that's a good point.
Exactly.